Hey everyone, and welcome to IoTeaLive. Tonight we're joined by a special guest, Olivier Bloch, over there, just to Cliff's right or left-hand side there, and in between us is Cliff Aegis as normal. So we do this little intro thing just in case people haven't joined the stream before. So Cliff, do you just want to explain who you are and what it is you're doing?
Yep. I'm a freelance .NET developer, mainly in the Xamarin IoT space, like playing with C#, building things and blowing things up occasionally. When I not do that, you find me at 41,000 feet, flying at 600 miles an hour, somewhere around the world. So yeah, that's me.
It's not a pilot or anything.
You're not blowing these ones, right?
No, I don't blow them bits up, no.
Oh dear. And then Olivier, do you want to just explain who you are?
Yeah, definitely. So Olivier Bloch, I work for Microsoft, and I'm part of the Azure IoT group, and I look after the developer community's engagement. Also in the past, I've been a developer in the embedded space, building real-time systems and so on, back when I was in France. And I joined Microsoft something like almost 15 years ago, first as a developer evangelist for the French sub for Windows embedded technologies that I happen to know pretty well. A bit nostalgic of Windows CE and things like that, and then evolved like back to Corp to evangelize Windows embedded worldwide. Did 3 years with the Microsoft Open Tech subsidiary, doing open source, open standards on gaming, on mobile technologies, and so forth. And I've been with the Azure IoT team for the last 5 years. I joined the group. We were 25 devs and PMs. Now we are way more, building all these services to help developers build their solutions out there.
It's quite interesting, isn't it?
How about you, Pete?
The fact that you've done a lot of kind of mobile stuff as well. A lot of IoT people that I speak to and talk to, it seems to be the crossover between mobile and IoT seems to be quite common. I've never. Well, it always tells me why, but it's always something that does seem quite common.
Well, think about the development of application for embedded devices and mobile devices. Before mobile devices were basically mini PCs or things like that, these phones were constraints in terms of resources, memory, and so on. Actually, as a matter of fact, Windows Phone before switching to Windows OS was running Windows CE. Yeah. And like version 5, 6, and so on with the Windows Phone. And so in terms of development, it was very close. Actually, I remember we had this great event, the Microsoft Mobile and Embedded Developer Conference, where we had a 50-50 split about, between developers interested in mobile and embedded. And it was a cross-pollination. It was pretty interesting.
It'd be nice to go back to those conferences, though, just to kind of get out and... One day.
Yeah, I miss conference pizza.
One day. We'll get back to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's...
Well, we get to see more people online as well. I mean, conference, you see a bunch of people, but it's just once in a year, one place, not everyone can travel. And so at the end of the day, the virtual, meetings and meetups and so on that have grown since the beginning of the pandemic. They're pretty interesting because we get to talk to more people. And actually, I get to talk to people that might not be in the embedded and IoT development space, and we learn a lot there.
Yeah, we had on Azure-ish After Dark, which is another show on this Twitch channel, we had Paul DiCarlo come and join us, and we played Among Us. And we talked about this exact subject. And I think the world is still catching up from a business point of view to the globality, if that's a word, how everything's become global now. Certainly from if you had to meet outreach targets before, they would probably be quite local outreach targets if you needed to contact developers and stuff like that, with a little bit of the fact that perhaps across the country might be a thing, but now it quite literally is across the world. And I know Paul was talking about the fact that he's met obviously me and the UK community from COVID taking place, and then likewise there's people in other parts of the world that he's been speaking to that he just wouldn't have ordinarily done, mainly because there are people in other parts of the world that are responsible for that sort of thing. There'll be people over in the APAC or region that would just handle that side of things that people over in the US side just wouldn't need to get involved with. So it's interesting that there's a lot of cross-pollination happening, and it will be interesting to see how business structures change to get targets to change for people to reach out globally rather than just nationally.
Well, hopefully people still get on airplanes.
Yeah.
So I haven't got a t-shirt on today. I haven't got it
yes.
on today. I should have worn it, but buy airline tickets like you bought toilet roll.
Yeah.
That's the new motto.
Yeah. Talking of t-shirts, weren't you talking of buying t-shirts for the show at one point, Cliff?
I was, yeah. I've looked into it. We need to just get the logo how we want it, which I think you've kind of done. But I know you talked about changing bits of it.
Yeah, I think it's probably all right as it is. It won't be as good as Olivier's IoT t-shirt though. That's the one.
Yeah, the one t-shirt I have, it's that one actually. I promise I do wash it, but I only have one, so I need to actually get some more done. Because someday it won't have any more shape. It will not be black anymore. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, deodorant tends to make a mess of most of my t-shirts in the end. Yeah. That's the other thing.
I've been asked a lot about that one, so I have a secret anecdote about this t-shirt. I actually got it on a build event at a booth from one of our competitors. And so in the back of that shirt, there's the name of the competitor, and it's just IoT here. And I'm just like, do not turn around. Do not turn around.
I love that. I like that very much. Well, you just need to make your own version of that. That's what you need to do.
Yeah, next time I wear it, some people will just like, oh, what's going on?
Looking for reflections in pictures and stuff like that.
Yeah. Well, when an idea is cool, like stealing it is smart, right?
Yeah. Definitely is. Absolutely. So I mean, that's the thing we're missing for conferences is the swag as well, and I tend to live in conference t-shirts just about. Although I got this one sent very nicely by Sherry List from the Azure Heroes team, which theoretically I'm not really supposed to have it. I just sweet talked her into giving it to me, and she was very nice to send me that and a badger, which was really nice. But that Azure Heroes program is fantastic as a way to outreach into the community. And Bit does a really good one for the dev advocates as well. So
a little collection going on down here.
I notice. Yeah, very cuddly. But we missed that. We missed the swag.
This used to be my office and had a workbench, 3D printers, soldering station. It was all laid out. It was all great. And yeah, since Mrs. A decided that she has to work from home, it's all gone green and flowery.
It looks nice.
And plants and stuff, yeah.
But you built a workshop though, haven't you, Cliff?
I built a workshop and hope everything's moved out there, and hopefully I'm going to get sort of stuff out there so I can do these streams from out there. So we'll have electronics and soldering stations and back again.
Yeah, that's all you can see in the view behind me. Olivier and Cliff have got a slightly different view of the ceiling mainly, but across here on the stream and the 3D printers and all that sort of stuff. And I'm not lucky enough to have enough space in the garden to build a whole workshop. I know John.
I don't know how I got away with it.
Well, yeah, it's good.
Yeah,
it looks awesome.
I'm squatting the guest room. So I usually don't have a home office, and these days squatting the guest room, which is also the video game room. So the kids are just like, "He's dad done for his day of work, so I can play." I'm just like, "No, maybe not." Some power here.
Yeah, you say that though. I spoke to my sister earlier today, and she's been told that she's not going to be going back to the office. They've got rid of the office in London, and that's it. Wow. It's gone. They're sort of they're going to have a small office where they can have some meetings, but that's work from home. That's it. That's your she works for a fairly big company in London as well. So to see sort of companies realizing that they can save a lot of money by not having to pay rent is quite interesting. So yeah.
Yep. We were talking about the events. Actually, one of the things that's going to happen is at Microsoft in particular, I don't know if we're going to go to like that much to big events. We used to travel a lot. We used to like go to these old worldwide events here and there. And now we can do that online. So why would I travel and burn 2 of my weekdays for the trip and then spend 3 days in a place and then, so yeah, we do want to travel again, but it's not going to be as intense. And and as frequent as it used to be. So that's and the work from home thing. Well, as you might have read in the news, at Microsoft, we have the option of going back, up to 50% work in the home without having to just have a conversation with your manager if he's fine with that. That you're good to go. And so that's going to change the way we work as well, because 50% at home, 50% at work. Actually, that's a good balance, I think.
It's a lot of Microsoft employees that work all over the world. That I know a few on the Xamarin team that are based in Europe. Don't kind of go to an office. They work from home. That is how they work. That is how they that's what's done. So it's changing, and
as a matter of fact, we do have a part of the team in the Azure IoT group. Part of the team is in Germany. They're working on industrial IoT scenarios close to where some of the big industrial manufacturers are, right? So that's good to have them there. Benjamin on my team is working from France. A colleague of mine is working from Denver, and we're split across the US and across the world, and works. So why not? Actually, we are now, when we are hiring someone, we're just like barely looking at the location, because does it matter if that person is remote or not? 1 year ago would have looked like, hey, we need to have that person like local so that we can have them in the meetings and so on. Now it's like everyone is working from home, so that can work. So I think we're going to learn new ways of working, and finding a job will no longer be about going physically to an interview next door. It's going to be certainly about seeking for a job anywhere. Like, if the time zone works, well, why not?
Yeah, I mean, we're in a good time zone here in the UK for that, and I think that's probably why we've got quite a good base of UK people working for Microsoft, because we're in between those two time zones, so we can do the APAC stuff and the US stuff in the middle, and obviously the EU stuff. Obviously, you're talking about working in your evenings or working first thing in the morning, but it's not horrible. Whereas if you're at the extremes of one of those, then it becomes a little bit more difficult, I think. So it's not too bad.
And then you get events like the Ignite and Build. It means that more people can come along. And because of what Microsoft had to do, because of the pandemic, and they've had to change the way they present these events. I think Ignite was pretty impressive the way it was put together. Build last year was done in a hurry. It was still good, but you could see where there was bits where they were trying to kind of rush it together, whereas Ignite...
You're talking about a specific demo that didn't work?
Sorry?
Are you talking about a specific virtual reality or augmented reality demo that didn't work? Something like that?
That was amazing. That Ignite keynote, I mean, Cliff and I both got the Quest. I bought mine kind of cajoled by Davide Zordan into buying it for the keynote for this, but it was well worth doing. That mixed reality VR keynote with... Alex Kipman was amazing, really well done. Shows what so Mesh was one of the things they were announcing as part of that. So Teams and VR, basically, that's a fantastic use of technology. I don't know how well it will catch on, because certainly to get it to work like Alex did, where he was physically on stage, that requires a certain set of cameras. I think there's these Connect type cameras. I think he needs like 3 of them, I think, to make that work in a room, so that you get an all round body appearing as an avatar in a room like that.
Were they the Connect device, or were they the Azure I forgot what it's called now, the Azure SDK, the
I think they're the same.
The Azure Connect cameras?
Yeah, they're the same contents of device, I think, aren't they? They've just been
I know the Azure ones are kind of the next version on from the Connect that you used to get with an Xbox that no longer comes. I forgot what they're called. It's the Azure SDK, isn't it?
It's Azure Connect, I think it's called, isn't it?
It's Azure Connect, and the do come was all you need to work with the depth. Actually, these cameras, what they have with this particular is the depth sensor in addition to the infrared and regular cameras.
Yeah.
So Azure Connect, that's what it is.
DK, that's what it was. Yeah, the Connect. Yeah.
Yeah.
DK like Dev Kit.
Yeah.
Dev Kit, that's it. Yeah. So which is basically a Connect, just taking bits out of it and stuck it in there, and
but a lot smaller and neater as well. So.
Yeah, but I think you needed 3 of them to make it work. I seem to forget who it was. I saw somebody demoing it. Might have been Scott Hanselman, demoing it in a room with these, and yeah, you got the 3D look. It was amazing to watch, and it was flawless because right at the very end they had this party, like a tribal party, but you could walk around the people in the middle who were doing the performance and see them from all angles. It was really impressive, actually. Oh yeah, look, powered by Azure IoT Edge.
Yep.
And that's a nice segue, I suppose, into talking about some of the IoT announcements at Ignite, isn't it, Olivier?
Yeah, totally. We've been gravitating around.
Oh, you what?
Say it again.
Are they available in the UK yet?
I don't. This thing here, the Connect DK. Look, don't know.
Yeah, I think you can check it out. I don't know if it's available on all markets though. Not sure.
Sorry, I broke your.
Honestly, I love this device, but honestly, you can get the same kind of thing with off the shelf camera and sensors and build your own. I mean, you guys will have way more fun than having a pre-baked hardware like this one. I think this one is good for companies who want to build their proof of concept rapidly and have it as a demo device so that they can go to production with something very similar. It's a dev kit at the end of the day, right? So it's really for getting started on your developments in a specific technology and set of services. So I think we can see it a lot in some of the robotics demos that the team working on Rtos does, because it has the right sensors to enable some autonomous robotics behavior and things like that. So that's an area where you would want to use that.
And how does the this device differ from the it's called the it's gone now, the Percept?
Oh yeah,
device.
That's another announcement.
Well, here we go. 2 steps into the announcements, right? So Azure Percept has been announced at Ignite. I'm getting the question a lot these days. I actually have one of the kids here to play with. And the principle of Azure Percept is to allow for developers to grasp the end-to-end story of AI at the edge. So we know that building and implementing and deploying solutions where you have AI brought to the edge is not simple. You have the notion of creating the models, enhancing the model, deploying the models onto a device itself having to be kept up to date and managed from the cloud, able as well to run these machine learning algorithms in a secure way. And so it's not being easy to implement end to end. The Azure team decided to put together Azure Percept, which is a bundle of service plus developer kit. For now, there's one developer kit that is co-branded with Asus and Microsoft. And there's going to be more of these dev kits in the future. And what you get with Azure Percept is an end-to-end experience that is following all the best practices for device management, update for secure deployment or more secure deployment of machine learning models to the edge, for management at scale of these edge devices and so forth. So basically, it's something that you can build a proof of concept really rapidly, and then you can go to production with what you build for your proof of concept, because it's using and leveraging, state-of-the-art technologies. So a few things. So you certainly seen some of the demos that they had at Ignite that are kind of high level. It comes with what I would call the brain, which is the IoT Edge box, the device down there that is powered by a Linux build, which is called Mariner, and it's a Microsoft developed Linux distribution, and has IoT Edge runtime in there. So it's managed through Iot Hub. It's provisioned using the device provisioning service, right? So that way you have a very safe provisioning of these devices.
Provisioning as well, isn't it? So it doesn't need to. You don't need to do anything. I did see. I think you did on the IoT show the other day. You did a thing about doing DPS with that.
What's interesting is that in the industry, provisioning devices is problematic, right? Think about the person was actually installing, for example, a camera system in a retail shop. And maybe cameras are used for security, but also for counting people, at the registers, or detecting if shelves are empty or whatnot. And so, when you come and add a dozen cameras and you want to connect them, well, today people come up and they have the Wi-Fi access point, SSID and password, and they go into the device and enter that, and it's prone to error, prone to hijacking, and so forth. And so, what Azure Percept in their dev kit implemented, looking at the end-to-end provisioning experience, was not just about, hey, how do we connect that to the cloud on one side and how do we connect to the network on the other one? They looked at that, from the holistically, and it was saying there's a technology that the Wi-Fi consortium is developing, which is called Easy Connect, that allows for devices to be provisioned, ahead of time. So devices will come online by broadcasting and say, hey, I'm this device, and gateways that have been pre-configured or pre-provisioned will be, and they're called configurators, will be able to say, hey, I know you, so I'm going to give you credentials for that Wi-Fi access point that I am, so that you're able to then just connect to the Wi-Fi. So basically, turn the device on, comes online, gets the credentials for Wi-Fi. And then from there, Azure Percept service will take over and say, okay, now I have the Wi-Fi connectivity. The device will also now be able to connect to DPS. And because it's been provisioned up there as well, it will get an IoT Hub credential for it to directly connect. So the experience you're seeing on the IoT show for that zero-touch Wi-Fi provisioning of an Azure Percep Dev Kit is really what it is. Turn on, connects in the demo using an Aruba access point that implements Easy Connect. It could definitely be another brand as long as that protocol is supported. And device does everything. And something which is interesting in terms of the best practice is that this solution from Aruba that implements that standard of the Wi-Fi Easy Connect is actually leveraging the device provisioning service for managing device identities. So that way there's one source of truth. You have to provision your device once in DPS, indicate the Wi-Fi networks that it will be allowed to connect to during that provisioning in the backend. So when the device comes online, it actually checks with that configurator on the network, which itself checks with DPS if that device is allowed on that network. So that way you have that very streamlined experience for that provisioning. And then Percept as a service also demonstrates and allows you to understand how you can easily create models. So models for vision, models for audio, for speech, those type of examples are available based on the hardware, which has an array of microphones on one side and a camera on the other one. And basically, using the set of services that are bundled, you can very easily, with no code, whether pick from samples or create your own models. And then you can set up a certain number of things to capture images when some thresholds are not met, so that way you can enhance your models using cognitive services and redeploy over the air these models to your devices. The other thing that Percept implements, which is very interesting. Yeah, go ahead.
Do you train those models in the cloud then, or do you train them on device locally?
You train them in the cloud. So using cognitive services, like typically for an image recognition, you would actually just do what you've been certainly doing with some of the demos we have for IoT Edge, which is gather some images, push them to your workspace on cognitive services, and then tag them for the model to learn. The thing is, and we know that these vision AI models, they need to have images coming from the actual camera in the actual location with the actual lighting and situation of that camera to really be efficient. And so Percept actually shows how you can continuously enhance these models in a very simple way, capturing the images on the device and then feeding your cognitive service model training in the back end with some automation and so on. So it's pretty interesting. Another thing which is super important is the security across, from device all the way up to the cloud. We very often show these nice demos of machine learning model running on a device, but we never talk about how do you secure that. These models, for things like YOLO and others are actually out there in the open. It doesn't matter that much, but for things that are more, I would say, full of IP, let's imagine you developed a specific algorithm to detect a specific quality flaw in some, PCBs that are like passing on a mounting chain or something, right? So this model actually, you might not want to have a competitor finding it, or for that model to actually go in the wild. Azure Percept in its flow for deploying the models and running them secures everything, signs the models, allows for the device down there to eventually run these models into confidential compute hardware, like TPMs and others. And so it really leverages and uses all the best practices when it comes to securing a flow of machine learning models deployed to an edge device. So all of these elements are things like the device update is another one. So that's a new service that's been announced at Ignite, the device update for IoT Hub. And actually, Azure Percept uses it. So that means that your Azure Percept device, you will set it up to receive updates from the cloud that are managed through IoT Hub, meaning your device has one access point to the cloud, and you manage that device both in terms of its settings, the models it's running, but also the OS that is underneath. And you can push these updates, in a controlled way, in a controlled environment, with the top-of-the-art security implementations as well, to make sure that the right firmware is deployed to the right device, and that the device itself is able to acknowledge the legitimacy of that firmware and deploy it locally. So all of that, we have some IoT show episodes that have been published, someone coming, some blog posts as well. We didn't mention, you did show actually the main blog post, which is IoT at Ignite 2021 that I put out there and just updated. So you can have all the pointers to learn more about all of that. So that was actually the gist of it. Azure device update or device update for IoT Hub, Azure Percept. There's another thing that's been announced that I found it is pretty cool, which is around IoT Plug and Play, where I don't know if you've been familiar with the IoT Plug and Play bridge. It's a nice piece of open source project that allows for connecting any kind of devices that are not connected to the internet, would be Bluetooth, serial, Modbus, whatever. They can hook up to a machine running that IoT Plug and Play bridge. Initially, it was a piece of software running as daemon on Linux. Now it's available as an IoT Edge module. So that's neat, because that means you can very easily make an IoT Edge device, becoming a bridge for any sort of leaf. We're talking earlier on about Zigbee and other things like that. You can imagine having an IoT Edge gateway that actually, on one hand, on one side, will connect to these leaf devices on your local network. So for home automation, could be Zigbee, whatever. For building automation, could be Modbus or something like that. Could be CAN for automotive, could be whatever. And then that edge device will make these leaf devices appear as IoT Plug and Play devices in the cloud. Meaning then you have a very easy integration into IoT Central, digital twins, your own application that supports IoT Plug and Play, with a real notion of plug and play. Device comes online, declares its capabilities, and then you can just use it and interact with it. So that's pretty powerful.
It's very, very powerful. I mean, do you need a powerful edge device to run that, or you can run it on something small like a Raspberry Pi? Or, I mean, is it? No,
like it's all a matter. So it's all a matter of how many of these leaf devices you're going to connect. And very often you don't need a lot of compute or storage power there, right? So you see in the architecture how that works is basically leveraging the OS architecture with the driver architecture on the OS itself to allow for the connectivity of these leaf devices through whatever network or connectivity they have. And then this little bridge actually is pretty tiny. And what it does, it actually leverages the model on one side and whatever the protocol specifics through a little adapter. And then will actually just act as a device up to Azure IoT Hub. So for IoT Hub, it's like, hey, that new Zigbee device just appeared, and it supports on/off, and here's its actual state. And for the backend, there's no visibility into what exactly that is underneath. So you can look at that architecture. The fact that it's now available as an IoT Edge module is what's new. And for all the edgers out there, it allows to not have to manage the bridge itself as a piece of software. It's prepackaged, and you manage the IoT Edge device and then deploy that module on the edge device itself.
That's kind of cool, actually. I've got a few projects now that are bubbling away in my head that'd be kind of handy. I do a lot of stuff with CAN bus from when I worked in the automotive industry many years ago. So yeah, that's something that's actually quite interesting. There's a few things that could be used on because a lot of, as I'm sure you know, you talk to customers and clients in the automotive industry, a lot of the tech there is from sort of 20, 30, 40 years ago. And, you know, the internet didn't exist. So even to get an Ethernet connection to an old Telemecanique or Square D sort of, you know, PLC controller just doesn't exist. So you have to sort of bit bang it and push it out on I/O and things like this, and then pick up another device that you then send it up to, you know, the offices for data management. But to be able to do something like this with CAN bus is, you know, even Modbus is pretty impressive, actually.
Yeah.
Certainly something I'll look into and speak to.
And actually, when you think about it, so and as we know, all of like IoT players, not everything in IoT, and actually very few things in IoT are greenfield or new. Like lots of things are about retrofitting or adapting an existing infrastructure that companies have been investing in. And so the ability to add on that layer, which is IoT plug and play, to in addition to the connectivity, like we talked about, just enabling a brownfield scenario to be connected using Azure Sphere, for example, or an IoT edge device. Now you are adding another layer, which is the modeling of the device's capabilities with IoT plug and play based on DTDL, which is something we need to talk more about, you know, in general, I think, because developers need to understand that this DTDL definition language, the digital twin definition language, actually extend to more than just IoT plug and play and what Microsoft is doing. The objective of DTDL is to offer a way that is generic for all these devices to declare their capabilities and interact with a backend, with an application in the cloud. So digital twins on Azure are actually based or actually leveraging DTDL. IoT Hub, for its IoT plug and play implementation, is using DTDL as well. And DTDL is open source, and there's that consortium as well that's been built around it. But I think in general, it's more a developer story that we all together need to build around DTDL. When it comes to digital twins, there's some ontologies that actually are compatible with DTDL or developed on top that will allow bridging these worlds. You were mentioning CAN earlier on, and all these networks that you will want to connect to the cloud or connect these devices to the cloud. You need to have that bridge, that interface that will actually make these two worlds communicate, but also something that is not too heavy in terms of coding, future-proof, and integrates into these future technologies like Azure Digital Twins, where once you have the data up in the cloud, and once you have this model to describe the data, you can now implement very rich algorithms, graphs, and so on in your apps to make the most out of these applications and of these devices and their data. I mean, and so we have some cool demos of devices that are actually just integrated almost instantly into a digital twin with a 3D representation in Blender and so on that Benjamin is putting together.
Yeah, we're doing that.
You should see some of that soon.
We're doing that.
Yeah. You've already seen some of that, right?
Yeah. We're running through it with Benjamin.
That's reality. It's not. Yeah, and it's actually things that are made possible thanks to this kind of layers that are actually abstracting the complexity that underneath that they're brought to the industry. So, and then it's really about bridging, different worlds. I know it might be a can of worms here, but we've been asked a lot about, hey, why not just using OPC UA in that case? And you just, yes, totally. OPC UA is like a great protocol for the manufacturing world, and you can actually leverage IoT edge devices with OPC publishers in form of modules and so on to connect your OPC UA infrastructure to the cloud, and abide by everything that OPC UA is about. At the same time, you can bridge that very simply to a digital twin world using and leveraging DTDL as a format, as glue. So that's definitely the objective and the idea here. It's not to define a new protocol for IoT. It's more about how do we make all of these existing, established, and useful protocols talk to each other, and eventually being interactable from applications in the cloud to make the most of the data they produce and to be able to control them and monitor them, remotely. So yeah, that's where we're going. We need more discussions around DTDL, more demos, more implementations, more bridges to various existing infrastructure, protocols, and so forth.
Cool.
Cool.
Just before we, I wanted to go back as well. Actually, I had a couple of questions in the chat. I just wanted to go through before I did that. And to be fair, both of them are questions I wanted to ask anyway. So has Nain 82 was asking, what's the chances of getting the Percept in the UK? I think you can only pre-order it for the US at the moment. Do you know anything about timelines for that?
I think, actually, let me check my email real quick, because I think I had
it
some
helps flying to the
pointers.
US at the weekend.
Yeah. Gimme.
Every weekend this month. In fact, I've got a trip to the US.
Might need to be Seattle though.
Let me check that. Actually, it's on GitHub right now. The countries where there's a wait list for UK.
Already? How do you join
that? There's a wait list for UK. Yeah.
Have you got a link?
You can definitely.
Okay. Hold on.
So the United States is the only place you can pre-order. On the wait list, we have Canada, France, Germany, Netherlands, Sweden, and United Kingdom. And then check back later is all the other ones. Sorry, guys.
Not good enough. Here's the wait list, and definitely join that then. So I hope that doesn't answer your question, because that's not good enough for me either. I want one tomorrow, please, to have a play with that. And then
try.
Abakan is asking, can you contrast Azure Percept with AI on the edge with something like the NVIDIA Jetson Nano, which I've got one sitting over there? What's the differences there?
So that's a good question, and if you look when you get your kit, you'll be able to check out the portal, which is the Azure Percept Studio. And actually, if you have an Azure subscription, you should be able to connect there. You won't see any devices, but the Azure Percep Dev Kit, the one that is branded Azure/Microsoft, is the first of a series. There's going to be more there. In principle, Azure Percept is IoT Edge. IoT Hub in the back. Actually, you create an IoT Hub while you're creating while you're setting up your Azure Percept device. I've not tried that, but it feels to me it's going to be possible to implement the same concept and the same best practices you have in Azure Percept, which is basically create, reach AI models, leveraging cognitive services, deploying them, as securely as possible onto the edge devices and managing these edge devices. All the bits and pieces are available today. You could build your own similar solution today with a Jetson Nano, IoT Edge, IoT Hub, creating your own portal, eventually leveraging IoT Central, and so forth. Will that be integrated into the Azure Percept experience? There's going to be more kits. I don't know which ones exactly will be there, but there's going to be more kits there, and certainly third-party ones.
I like it. Funnily enough, coming to this show soon, we're going to have Paul DiCarlo, and we're going to run through some demos and stuff with the Jetson Nano, and it's going to be quite a fun bit of kit to play with.
Mine arrives tomorrow. There's a bit of a delay because Paromi moved into the new warehouse at the weekend. Right, yeah. So they should have better and quicker shipping and more stock because they've got a massive warehouse now.
Happy days.
Mine arrives tomorrow.
That's a really good UK stockist for the maker community. Pyroroni, awesome. Fantastic. Yes, I like those people over there, the pirates. So that's a really cool device. That is, I like that. Do you know you were talking earlier? You mentioned Sphere, and how does that fit into the security of the Percept? Is there a crossover there somewhere, or?
There's a dog that Shelly's telling me there's someone at the door. You don't need an IoT device to tell you someone is at the door, by the way. Just get a dog.
K9OT.
Exactly. And you can play ball with them and so on. It's So the question is, how does Azure Sphere relates to Azure Percept, right? That's basically the question.
Yeah, I know
right?
two different technologies, but there's a security.
They don't. apart from the name, Azure Sphere is a solution that is targeted at it's really tiny microcontrollers. And the idea of Azure Sphere is to offer a secure implementation model for microcontrollers. Azure Percept is more about building and showing how to build AI at the edge, right? From end to end. Azure Sphere is something that does not support the IoT Edge runtime. It's something that you can run TinyML, solutions like Edge Impulse and others down there. But this is something which is really about more constrained devices. Here you're showing the NVIDIA Jetson Nano, which is the category of devices that will support AI at the edge. When we say AI at the edge, we mean not TinyML. We mean actual models that have been developed in the cloud that eventually leverage hardware acceleration and will run, in the case of the realm of Microsoft, the IoT Edge runtime, which is based on Docker, requires Windows and Linux as an OS, things that actually are in the realm of bigger types of devices. But think of it as Azure Sphere is down there for securing, the very end of the edge. IoT Edge is here to very often actually running on gateways, on servers that are on premises, to support these leaf devices, these sensors, to add intelligence to our infrastructure. If you go up the stack, you have Azure Stack Edge and Azure Stack Hub. Think of them as your own personal tiny Azure. And then you go on to Azure itself, right? So you have the whole stack of solutions, and at the very end, even beneath Azure Sphere, there's Azure Rtos. If you talk about just Microsoft solutions, so Azure Rtos, previously known as ThreadX, and a series of services for real-time development of microcontrollers. And so you have the whole stack here that can be put together, can work together, connect, interconnect, and allow you for, I need that here, but maybe something else from some other vendor somewhere else. But you have an option here that spans across the whole spectrum, from the sensors all the way up to the cloud with everything in between. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of the way they relate, right? To answer your question, Azure Sphere down there, Percept, it kind of is I do see Percept more as the glue that goes all the way from the cloud to the intelligent edge, and sometimes all the way down to the sensors, because the dev kit, actually, the Azure Percep Dev Kit, comes with the camera and the microphone arrays that are actually available in terms of their specs and so on GitHub, and that actually are ready for production, kind of as per the videos we've seen up there, where you actually have the detachable module, which is the actual set of microphones or the actual camera itself, and that this is something you can leverage as is for your own solution, not just in your dev kit. So yeah, does actually draw that picture of how to do AI at the edge end to end. That's very interesting, thing.
Okay. Yeah, I thought it was a good thing to give people that scope of the different things we've been talking about. If they've got no idea what Azure Sphere is, then people might think that was in the same realm. Actually, you mentioned Rtos, and although it wasn't an Ignite announcement, there was a recent announcement from ST, wasn't there, about Rtos support on their STM32 devices. And one of the things that fascinated me was that it's free on certified devices. You can productionize this for free, Azure Rtos for nothing. If it's not a certified device, then you're going to have to pay something. But yeah, this real-time operating system for constrained devices is a fantastic offering. And as you mentioned, it's from ThreadX. Microsoft bought ThreadX, and Rtos was part of that. And it handles all of the constrained parts of threading and stuff like that you don't have to worry about memory management and all of that. And it's tiny, isn't it? Like 1K or something ridiculous. So
it depends what chip you build it for. But yeah, the goal is to have it actually super small. Actually, Fitbit's running it. There's like tons of devices already using ThreadX today. And so, yeah, it's really meant to be, it's optimized for tinier devices. So it's a very different thing. That said, it's super important to understand that we are talking about this set of solutions that Microsoft offers all the way from sensors up to the cloud. But, it doesn't mean that you have to use exactly, these technologies. In the realm of microcontrollers, if you happen to run another real-time OS, if you have free RTOS or something else like that, well, you can still connect these devices to Azure very easily, leveraging one of the open source SDKs that were out there. If you want to build your own IoT device, the IoT runtime is open source and is available as a Docker container, plus the Moby engine that is the open source version of Docker that you can actually also deploy on your own machines to have that connectivity of an edge device up to and management of that edge device from Iot Hub. You can definitely leverage these technologies on your own hardware, your own OSs, and so forth. So that's important. There's a wide variety of options, maybe sometimes too much. When we're describing all of that, people are just like, wow, that's too much. And sometimes we ought to be a bit more prescriptive, I guess. But we know customers don't have all the same needs and asks and requirements. So we want to make sure that all the options are out there as much as possible, I would say. So it's like microcontrollers, Azure Rtos, great solution for real time. But if you're using something else, no problem. We have an embedded C SDK that you can leverage to connect that device to Azure, etc. We can go on and on that one.
There's some improvements for the C SDK as well, specifically for things like the ESP32. I noticed there was. And some improvements on using that announced recently, which was good because that's historically been quite difficult. I seem to remember having to download and even make modifications to the SDK to get that to build properly. So I'm glad to see that.
Yeah, that it's a recent announcement. The team just put that one out recently. So there's a story behind the what we call now the embedded C SDK or the Azure SDK for embedded C, maybe. I don't remember the exact name. Someone will kill me over here, but that's okay. So the history behind it is that we had another bigger C SDK, and I say bigger, it was much bigger, more monolithic, less optimized for tiny devices. There was the original C SDK that's been developed from the get-go. Recently, we kind of did let's reset that thing because the C SDK as it was not fitting everyone's need. It was definitely fitting needs for developers using more powerful devices, caring less about memory and so on. But then realized that there was a need for something more modular that was actually not enforcing the use of an MQTT library of a specific SSL stack and so on, and wanted to give the flexibility for embedded developers to pick their favorite ones or their preferred ones or the ones they had to use. And so the embedded C SDK has a more flexible architecture that allows you to bring in your own SSL stack, to bring in your own MQTT client, and basically just add the few layers necessary for implementing the protocols that are specific to Azure IoT, the DPS connectivity and provisioning, the plug and play functionalities, the device twins functionalities, and things like that. So that's the history behind this embedded C SDK, and that's one that is now used more and more. The ESP32 announcement is one of the many that is being added to the collection of samples, because that SDK is highly portable. So that means that even if you're bored, your hardware is not supported, chances are it won't be too much work for you to run that C SDK on your platform.
Yeah, I've actually got an ESP32 over there hooked up to IoT Central. As it happens, it's reading some Bluetooth temperature humidity sensors and it's sending that data up. I did that as a POC for a client actually, and learned quite quickly. This was a while back how complicated it is compared to coming from something like the C# SDK, which is a breeze. Moving over to something like the C SDK is a big gap in learning there, and it was quite a hill to get over to get that to work, as well as learning the architecture. Yeah, it was interesting. That was, yeah, definitely. So it's good to see.
Talking about like wave developing. Have you seen my post about this little guy here, the M5 stack?
That was
actually using
Bloch.
Was able to connect to IoT Hub. That was pretty cool, actually.
Yeah,
that was. I need to do some more work with that one.
You do. That's a competitor's device you're holding there, essentially, isn't it?
Yeah.
That is this one, in fact. This is really good. Hello, come on, there we go. I'll paste a link to this in the chat. This was really good. I read through that, and it speaks to me. Block-based programming languages are often frowned upon by sort of experienced programmers, and I think that's something we need to get rid of in the industry, because we're using it. I mean, experienced programmers should be using it for using things like logic apps these days. You will be using a block-based programming language, even though it might not look like it, but that's what Olivier's done here, is using something that, if you've used a microbit or Scratch or anything like that, then likely you use something like MakeCode or something as well, and that's what this looks like. And you just drag blocks together and configure them, and off you go. Obviously, that gets you so far, but you do need to do a little bit of more complicated stuff later on, don't you, to get the MQTT packets to go.
I think it's a good way. It's a good tool for for someone who's totally agnostic of what development is about. It's a way for them to get into IoT or device development in a way, right? Obviously, you will not go to production with something like that, but especially because the scenarios you can implement with this interface are pretty limited, like from the perspective on an actual device. But for building a proof of concept, for validating the use of a solution, for validating a concept of a device, sometimes that can be very practical. And then you can also just use it for your own fun, your own home project as well. But you leverage, the interesting thing that you do leverage the actual technologies used in the industry. Right, the chip itself is that ESP32 in there that is used on Wi-Fi devices out there. When you connect it to the cloud, you're under the hoods. You're leveraging an MQTT client, which is basically implementing the protocol which is used in the industry, MQTT. And then you connect to Azure IoT, which is a service used by industrial, right? And so, or IoT Central, that's my next task, actually. Make it connect to IoT Central using DPS and so on, abstracting all of that. But so you're basically leveraging that technology that is used in the industry with a proof of concept device or a toy device. And that allows you, even if you don't know anything about embedded development, to validate an idea, to validate that you can build a solution with these services, and that it fits your needs and requirements. I think it's very interesting. I think we should do more of that, and also maybe introduce younger developers to IoT that way. Because I love Raspberry Pi, I love Arduino, but you throw the C development interface to even a kid in high school, like, they're just lost. Like, they need to learn the development language. You need to, and here, just drag and drop, and that's so much easier in concept. And then you can translate that actually in that blocky, in that UI flow interface. You can switch to MicroPython code. You can see the code that is behind the blocky, and so that's pretty powerful, because you can learn while you're doing, drag and drop, and then check the code that corresponds to that. And so you can learn like that. So that's pretty cool.
That's why I like Tinkercad. And this is thankfully it's not really a competitor. It's by Autodesk, but this is a free application. And Olivier, you mentioned Arduino, and I give a talk about IoT with nothing but your laptop, and this features heavily in that you can come here and you can drag circuits together. You can drag an Arduino on here though, which is what's really powerful. And my PC's been quite slow, but an Arduino will appear. There we go. But you get the code. But what you get is the block-based version of that code. So instead of being faced with C, you get something that's a lot more approachable at this point. But what's fantastic is you can switch at that point over to the C if you want to, and write C for it. And you can even debug this and set breakpoints in the code in Tinkercad. So again, this sort of, I always point people, if they're going to learn, start with the microbit first, and then once they're done with the microbit, then stay in here and then do the Arduino version of that as well. Microbit's great, and you can do it in here, or makecode.com as well as another fantastic one for that. And you can switch between JavaScript and Python now as well for MakeCode. So again, that progression, starting though with blocks, is definitely the way that you should be going if you're just starting out, rather than trying to start with C. No one should start with C or JavaScript.
And And the fun thing is that us, not so young developers, we've been playing with assembly, C, and so on. We're still having fun with Blocky. I mean, at the end of the day.
Yeah.
It's nice, but it takes you away from having to think too hard about syntax and stuff like that. That's all extrapolated. You just got the block. We know, in fact, we work in blocks pretty much. We're going to copy and paste a block of code we've used before or somebody else has written and plug it in there and change the numbers and fiddle around with it till it works. And that's kind of what you're doing here, And in fact, .NET is based on that same premise where there's blocks of code written by somebody else and you can pull them together and use them. The less code you've got to write, the less bugs you should have, theoretically. So that's definitely the future for that.
I was listening to, on my drive to the other side of London today, I was listening to the Ampower podcast, which is Dave Jones and I forgot his name, Chris. I'm sorry, Chris, I've forgotten your surname, but Dave Jones of EV blog fame. Ampower, awesome podcast. They talk all about electronics and IoT stuff. But as part of that, they talked about make code. The podcast I was listening to today, they were talking about the Chipageddon episode is the one, but talking about the shortage of chips around the world. Not chips as in fish and chips, but chips as in your ICs. But they went on to talking about a project that Dave's working on, and about the fact that actually to get to zero to a proof of concept that minimal viable product that gets out there. Actually using make code or CircuitPython means that you haven't got to get down and dirty with your C compilers and make and everything else. You can just literally drag your blocks around, write a bit of CircuitPython to fill in the gaps where the blocks don't work, and you can actually get a working prototype out in next to no time at all, rather than having to worry about building your stack in C and everything else. So it's quite compelling argument that they made for actually building up and using these building blocks in a professional kind of sense as well, just to get something out there. Because the customer never wants to wait; they want it yesterday for less than nothing. We all know that as professionals in the business. So, yeah.
Yeah, and Dave in the chat mentions Node-RED.
In general, I think there's.
Sorry, go on.
I think in general, all of that is going along with what I like to say, which is we need to simplify IoT. And what I'm facing very often is embedded developers, especially, they're saying, well, but I need to still have control over everything that's going on, and I don't trust whatever layer of software you put on top of me. I want to be able to go down there and control all of that. Yeah. And I say, yeah, okay, you need to at some point. We need to also, rely on some of these libraries and trust them, and just like work at a higher level, right? And acknowledge that there's a need for some level of abstraction. So I think it's something that is starting to work when it comes to things like Azure Percept. The concepts of deploying machine learning models to the edge is complex, and the implementation is complex. And so having this kind of services and solutions that make it easier, I don't see anyone actually saying, no, I don't want that. I want to do it myself. And I think it's transitioning all the way down to the device developers more and more, where they will be able to embrace more of these technologies that simplify the development of devices, and their connectivity to the cloud and the extensibility and their intelligence. So I think we're going to see more of that, coming along with, solutions like Azure Rtos and competitors, to simplify developers' lives so that they don't have to reinvent the wheel each time to start a new device development, and can leverage existing stacks, existing libraries, existing solutions.
Yep. IoT Central.
I also think it's quite compelling for teaching new developers, like kids, doing code clubs and stuff. And, that's why I think Raspberry Pi are awesome at what they do, is taking a small cheap board and putting it in front of kids. Because, you write a bit of code that says hello world on the screen. It's like, oh, yeah, bored. I want to go and do something else. You get something to blink, or, a robot to move, or, get something that can tell whether it's a hot dog or not, on a bit of electronics that you put together in front of you. That is for kids, from young to old. I mean, we're all just big kids, really, aren't we? It's quite compelling, and it kind of drags you in and pulls you in. That getting that first blinky LED or your first servo to mode is like, oh, cool, I managed to get that. Me and Pete did a workshop with some Microsoft staff, didn't we, Pete? We had robots moving, and to see the cheers and whoops when they got their servos moving, the robot dancing around on their desk. It's good, and I think making it easier for in the IoT space so that more people can do that at a younger age brings them into the software development world, and that's what we need.
Yep.
The one and only TC in there has just mentioned Flogo, Golang. I've never heard of this before, but it's touting itself open source ecosystem for event-driven apps. So I need to check this out. Resource efficient, Go-based, open source. Is Go the Facebook language? Is that what that is? I forget now. Designed to abstract the event.
Yet another shiny object to go play with, right?
Yes, cool. We always like that. Because I've got all the time in the world, it seems. You mentioned all of the making things easier. Obviously, IoT Central is a fantastic environment for pulling together a bunch of quite complicated, dispersed systems in there, where you've got time series insights together with DPS, together with all of the device registry stuff, and it makes life so much easier. And even as a contractor, I've used IoT Central because I can give it to the client. They can manage it themselves once you've set it up, and that's fantastic for a contractor's point of view. It means they don't have to keep ringing me. And
totally. And actually, to add to that, we're working on a series of IoT Show episodes that will talk about the extensibility of IoT Central. Because what people don't realize is that IoT Central is actually moving towards being more interoperable, more extendable. So there's today the way you can export all the data of the devices to some storage or something. You can also implement basic rules and trigger action somewhere else. But then there's also a set of APIs, just like listing them here, that will extend, where you can start doing a bunch of things with it. And with some of the IoT Central team, they've been working on some interesting projects that I won't give too much of details right now, but that will allow they will demonstrate. Well, actually, yeah, exactly. There's no one here. But the idea is that we want to show how you can extend IoT Central. So how you can build solution with IoT Central. Consider IoT Central, as the core of your solution for the IoT side of the story, where you actually will manage your devices down there, implement basic rules, eventually have a UI with a way of setting roles for people and so on, but then use APIs and other applications, companion experiences that will allow you to create. An operator will not be using IoT Central, right? They might be using an application that is specialized to what they're operating on, that interacts with IoT Central through the APIs to extract the set of data that they need and to expose the commands that they need. And so I think it's going to be an interesting series and an interesting set of projects that they're going to put out that will show how IoT Central will help abstracting all these complexity, that integration. One of the things that IoT Central gives that no one realizes is things that are actually high availability, and it actually hides it's a SaaS service, right? You create an app, it's there, and there are IoT hubs behind and so on. If a data center fails and falls, we will take care as Microsoft of the failover. You don't have to implement that logic in your own application. Well, you have to do that if you go more granular, leveraging IoT Hub. You can do that, but you have to do it yourself. IoT Central implements that for you. And so that's a bunch of other things as well that IoT Central gives you that are really, things you don't want to reinvent. So the more APIs are open for Central, the more extensibility points are available, the more people will realize that, hey, maybe I don't need to do all of that myself. Maybe I can just leverage that and build more and add value on top, bringing my value add, on my, SME area or whatever. It's something that is going to be very interesting, and actually without having to code anything on the device side of things, right? As in plug and play is there. Device gets into my IoT Central application. I can create my IoT Central application very easily, and then build the rest. So that's what we want to start talking about.
Definitely. Sander van der Velde, if you've not heard of him, is a fantastic IoT guy. he's got a nice blog post here that I've put a link in the chat about getting started with that Azure IoT Central REST API. In fact, just look at the rest of Sander's blog. It's fantastic, really good resource. I've used it loads of times. He writes some fantastic stuff there. So go and check that out. Yeah, I mean, I've built some reasonably complicated solutions with IoT Central on the export side of things, where you can export out to a service bus or an event bus, and then you can take that to an Azure function, and then you can take those messages and use them in the rest of Azure, stick them in a blob storage directly from IoT Central, or put them in a SQL Server database, or anything like Cosmos DB, and then surface it with a Blazor app, and the world's your oyster after that. And it's cheap, actually. If you stay within your limits, it's 50p a device. Once you start sending too many messages, you're into overage message charges, which can get expensive. But I think you get something like 200,000 messages per device or something within that 50p. So it's incredibly cheap. And you think of the amount of time you save configuring all of the services. I mean, I mentioned time series insights. That's built into that. And it's a low code to no code device templating system as well. With plug and play sitting on top of that, and yeah, it's really fantastic service, well worth checking out. I don't know how long you've got left, Olivier. You're prescribed. I don't know how long you've got left. You were prescribed for the hour, or we're past the hour. I don't want you to get in trouble.
Oh, they're waiting for me on a meeting right now. So,
so I mean, feel free. You can drop off if you like. I mean, Cliff and I have still got a couple of more things that we want to talk about, but feel free to.
Okay, I'll let you finish. Well, thanks for your time, guys, and hope to be back soon.
Absolutely, really appreciate you coming along, Olivier. Thank you.
Have a good night there. Bye.
Cheers. See ya.
Bye now.
So that was Olivier Bloch. So yeah, thanks so much to Olivier for coming along. It was really, really good of him to come along.
Learned loads.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, just to go through those Ignite announcements. So I mean, I didn't have time, but is there a lag? Is my audio lagging or your audio lagging? We seemed okay. Olivier seemed a little bit laggy with audio and video.
Yeah, I think he just seemed to be Olivier. I'm not sure if that's because his bits need to get from the other side of the world via your computer and then sent back out again, probably via Twitch, which is back in the other side of the world. So his voice was probably crisscrossing the Atlantic on some fiber optic cables a couple of times. But it's an IoT show. That's what we're here about, isn't it? It's getting that data from here to there using little things and shout loudly from a distance.
I agree. So I mean, it was fantastic to go through all those Ignite bits of announcements. I mean, this year I didn't actually get much time to spend looking at the Ignite sessions, but I will go back and catch up on some of the videos, and Olivier's blog there is a great resource to go through and start planning your content. There's some great IoT shows already there and some new IoT shows coming soon as well, and there's the Percept one. Funnily enough, when that was first announced, I kept calling it Precept, and now that's stuck in my head. I can't call it anything other than Precept when it's Percept.
Yeah.
And it's obviously Percept. So if you catch me doing that, you can tell me off. It mentions in here, by the way, the AZ220 stuff. Go and do that exam. And if you're doing that exam, then watch my Pluralsight courses as well.
Yes, they're awesome.
How did you get on with that one?
Actually, I didn't get time to watch it. There's a few reasons why. But yeah, I won't go into them. But yeah, it's a busy night. What was I going to say about the Azure IoT 220? If you do the 30 days, Microsoft announced that
Cloud Skills Challenge.
30 days challenge. So you can go and complete one of the challenges, and there's a couple in there for Azure and the likes, and then you get a free exam, which will save you a bit of money. And along the way, you're learning something around Azure, or one of the other many things I've got in there. I've got some stuff on Office 365, Azure, and the like. So yeah, you can go and get a free exam, which is kind of cool, just for spending a couple of hours going through one of their online tutorials, which is very good. But yeah, you've got a new exam, a new course, haven't you? A new Pluralsight course.
Yes. Configure Health
Monitor. Jürgen's got a new one that's either just come out or just about to come out. I've seen tweeting about it today as well.
Yep, manage IoT devices, and I think it's also released an exam alert recently as well. So I don't see it on this list, weirdly, but the exam alerts don't appear on this list. Annoyingly, they don't. Yeah, look, if I do exam alert, it'll appear, but if you search for Azure IoT Developer, it doesn't. I did approach them about this, and there we are. Look, configure and manage. No, there we are. Implement.
You're not sharing that screen, by the way, Pete. I'm watching you on.
Oh
OBS
yeah.
and
Yeah, you're quite right.
Sure.
Yeah, quite right. There we go. That might help. Yeah, well spotted. Yeah, so the exam alerts appear separately. Yeah, here's me sharing my screen and not sharing it. But yeah, I've put a link in the chat there. 30-day challenge only open for a while, or does it close soon? I think there's a limit on it, personally.
There's a date limit. I seem to think it's the end of March for signing up.
Yeah.
I seem to think. I could be completely wrong. I probably am, but my brain is shouting at me end of March. But yeah, a quick Bing or Google or whatever your sort of DuckDuckGo or whatever your favourite search engine is, should be able to find that.
Oh no, Vlad talks.
Or you can just watch Peter. There you go.
Yep. Limited time.
Oh, there it was. It was on that previous page. Ends on, and it did say.
It says there, look. It's in this yellow part. March 30th.
30th of March. Get him.
Yep. Yeah, very good. Yeah, that was impressive. So, yeah, that's well worth... is there a link on this page, or do I need to go back? Official page, here we go.
I think you just need to have signed up before the 30th of March. You don't need to have completed it by now. I think you just need to have signed up. Yeah, it's on my list of things to do. There's a couple of courses on there, actually, I wanted to do anyway. So I'm going to do them to get the free exams so I can do my AZ220 exam.
Ooh.
For free.
Yeah, definitely.
When I find the time to actually, study. But yeah, there you go.
I'm working on and the next course, actually. I mean, all that AZ220 stuff's all broken down into objective domain parts, and I'm in the health monitoring section of that objective domain. So I'm just finishing off the second of 4 courses in this particular domain. I'm just finishing up writing the script, and I'm hoping to record that and release it this week, all being well. And then I've got 4 more courses to do, 2 more in this objective domain, and then 2 more introducing you and helping you to actually get started with the exam and finding where to register for it and stuff like that. So yeah, which will be interesting actually, because I've never taken the AZ220 exam because I was involved in creating it, and they just give you the exam and don't let you take it. So, and in fact, they prohibit it. You try and take an exam and you've already passed it, it'll say, you can't, you've already passed this exam, you can't take it again, which I think is to stop people from stealing the questions and publishing them online.
Do you not need to do the annual renewal part then?
No, I tried to have a look at that, and I think maybe I've got like a perpetual one. It wouldn't let me do it. What's it called? It's like My Achievement or something. Where do you go to get your certificates?
Isn't it your learning thing? You're learning.
Yeah, this is the AZ220 one. I'll put the link in the
chat. Learn profile thing, isn't it? In Microsoft Learn, it's all moved across there now, isn't it?
Yeah. Go to your certification dashboard. There we go. Yeah. Your dashboard. I'm a Microsoft certified trainer as well, so it tends to make things.
Got all the ticks.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, just that was free to get this year, so long as you'd ran workshops, which I most certainly have done.
I've run workshops. Can I get it then?
Yeah, well, I don't know if it's still free at the moment, but most certainly you would have been able to. Yeah.
Okay.
September 15th. You have to see if it's still free. But there's that one. So achievement date December 16th, 2019, and I've not been told to renew it. I don't even know where you go to renew your certificates or find out whether or not they're expiring or not.
Okay. I was going to turn the heater off, so I'm starting to melt.
Here we go. There's something about renewing it here. So let's not spend too much time on this, but you can go and have a look at. It's good. They've changed how you renew them anyway. You do like a little mini assessment. And you renew it at no cost, which is nice. I think I was involved in that because I had to do create a bunch of questions for a stay current type exam, and I think that's what these questions were used for, perhaps. So, renewal assessments available March 2021. I don't see IoT in that list, so perhaps that's the reason why then. So yeah, all right. Oh. Visit that and ensure your certification, blah blah blah. Okay, yeah, don't worry about that. So did we want to talk a little bit about where we got to with this little device?
Yeah, let's talk about PicoProducer.
Yeah, exactly. So if you've not seen before, if I go back to here, then if we go to GitHub, then there's a GitHub for that, and I'll paste that here as well. and put the link on the screen and paste it. To over there. That there. The one and only is asking, was this AZ220 Defo one of the 3 exams in the Ignite Cloud Skills Challenge? I think it is. I thought it was.
I'm 90% certain it is. I'm not 100%, but I'm pretty certain it was. So I
don't know.
Yeah, I need to look.
Yeah, don't know. Have a look while we're talking about this. If you've not seen this before, so this little device here is a macro keyboard, and I kind of called it a Stream Deck from like Elgato makes this really fancy device that's got like a big screen underneath the buttons, and you can choose whatever image goes on there, and it does a whole heap of stuff. But they're about 140 quid minimum. I think they're actually more than that now, and you can't get them for like hen's teeth. So I figured I could make one out of a Raspberry Pi Pico, which is exactly what I did. So inside this box, I've now got a PCB, so I can hold that up and this be a bit easier to see. That I designed using KiCad, and I got this particular board here fabricated at OshSpark over in the US. They're fantastic. I mean, they're not mega cheap. There's PCBWay that I also got some boards made from, and they're over there, and they're good as well. This was like $35 for 3, and this was $16 for 5, so there's a price difference, but we don't know. Obviously I like purple, and you also get this free upgrade to the gold copper layer stuff that they've done there as well, which just looks really pretty. Silver's okay, but you know, it just doesn't look as neat and tidy as the OshPart one. So yeah, well worth looking at that. But I mean, the original wiring, I don't know if I still got the image in here of the original wiring. Finished build.
While you're looking that up, I did find the list. I've posted it in the chat for the official rules, and the AZ220 is not on there. I was fairly certain it was on there though, but yeah, it's not. So yeah, this is quite short. There's only one AZ104 on there. All the others are to do with Office 365 and security. Yeah, so sadly it's not, but I'm going to do it anyway. So
disappointing. I was going to scroll down and look that the internet's been quite slow, and I've got quite a lot of media on there. But if you follow me on Twitter, you've been following this anyway. And the original design for this was all wires connected to buttons, and it was quite a complicated thing to do. And I know Dean Ellaby, who was there in the chat there, I'm not quite sure if he's still there, and Johnny Chips there, they got involved and soldered one together live as well. So that, yeah, which is, it's not an easy thing to do. It's lots and lots of wires. So I'd promised myself that I'd get back into PCB designing, something I'd not done in ages, and I actually got round and did that. I can't bother scrolling through there, but the PCB arrived, and I did my own stream of soldering it together. So the PCB kind of looks like that.
You're not sharing that screen again.
Oh, for feck's sake, really? Okay, here we go. That one. That'll be a bit better.
You only had a little box to do it for you.
I know, yeah, well, at least I've got a co-host who can tell me when I'm not sharing it. It'd be nice. So the PCB kind of looks like that when it's populated. There's normally a Raspberry Pi in there as well. So I've added a parts list to this as well, which is quite nice. And we've got two different sorts of cases. Yeah, so I got that. I probably should have called it bill of materials.
Which switches did you go with? The proper Cherry MX, or the ones that I used, the copies?
Yeah, the proper ones, although I've bought some of the copy ones. So they're the ones that, if I go back to this, these are the ones that Cliff's talking about. And they've got, it's actually going to be quite hard to show, but at the top or the bottom, depending on which way round you mount them, there's a little hole, and you can fit a little 3mm LED in that, which is fantastic. But Cliff had bought these, and I'd bought the original ones, and so that's why mine's got the LEDs mounted above. And actually it works quite well. If you can see from the little demo there, it does actually look like it's lighting the whole key up, so it's not bad the way it is anyway. But the other benefit of the ones that Cliff's mentioning there is they're about £3 rather than about 12 quid. But they take longer to arrive. Mine took about 3 weeks to arrive. I think it must have been coming from China. So it's all these people buying bits.
Mine were next day delivery. from Amazon. So
yeah, that's what I bought mine from Amazon, but they didn't. They must have run out in the UK and had to order them in. So, but I bought enough to be able to make a few of them. So I've got a few bags of these hanging around now.
yeah, I think I got a bag of 20 from Amazon for like £9-10. It wasn't a lot at all.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a bag of 10 for 3, I think I paid. So I bought 3 bags of them, I think. So, but there's everything you need in here to get going with that. And it's just a Raspberry Pi at the heart of it, using CircuitPython, which we mentioned earlier. And nicely.
Raspberry Pi, it's a Pico.
Did I say Raspberry Pi?
No, you said a Raspberry Pi.
Is that what I said? Yeah, I meant Pico. That shouldn't even say Raspberry Pi Pico there. It should just say. Well, no, it is a Raspberry Pi Pico. Raspberry Pi Pico.
That's Well, I suppose there is that, but it's the Pico, not the Pi.
Exactly. So that's what.
One's a microcontroller, and the other one's a full-on Linux beast.
Precisely that. So yeah, that's what that's about. So I'm not sharing my screen again anyway. So, but down here we've got what the Pico looks like anyway, and it's normally strapped on the back of this board with these 2 resistor packs. These resistor packs are expensive, and in the future I might make a surface mount version of this. But I wanted to make it so that people could buy these boards off me and build it themselves. That's kind of what I wanted. And if you're going to make it surface mount, there's a great swathe of people that's going to exclude. Whereas these, it's not that hard. It took me, I don't know, an hour, something like that, to solder it together while I was explaining everything. So if I was doing it on my own now, I'd probably be able to do it in 20 minutes, solder it together, and off it goes.
Those chips, though, if someone was to use the board design and get them done at Osh Park and that, and they can't get those chips, there's nothing stopping them just using a through-hole resistor, is there?
No, well, they won't fit side by side when you do that, so it won't be nice and neat. They'll have to stand off a little bit.
Is that purely because you're using quarter-watt resistors? Because you're not stepped down to... Because it's not going to draw that much current, is it? I'm just thinking if you can go to a smaller resistor.
You probably could use very small resistors there, actually, rather than quarter-watt ones. You could probably go lower than that even, and then you might be able to fit them. You're right.
Yeah.
I'm
just thinking so. Or staggering them. I've done that before, where you put one against the board and the other one.
Yep.
You do every other one against the board, then you put the other slightly higher.
Yeah.
There's space there to do that. That's another trick that I've done in the past to make it work.
Yep. You can solder in every other one against the board, and then solder in the other ones in the middle on top, and that makes life quite easy.
On top, yeah.
Yep.
Because you're not drawing enough current to worry about heat dissipation between them. So
there's only one on at a time in this design, so it's perfectly fine. You're quite right. In fact, that's one of the things. If these took too long to arrive, then that was what I was going to do, because I was getting a bit desperate at that point. I was kind of waiting for these, but they all arrived at a very similar time in the end, so it wasn't too bad. The hardest part normally would be soldering all of the buttons on and the LEDs, but actually, because you've got a 3D printed faceplate, you can kind of put all that lot together and just plop it onto the board. All of this is laid out specifically to go with the 3D printed faceplate that you can see down here. So once you've done that, then it makes life quite a lot easier. I've got the steps that you need to go through, assembly hints here and how to do that. There's a few bits of gotchas and caveats in that, but if you follow those along, then that makes a little.
Or just watch your stream.
Just watch the stream.
Yeah.
Yep. You can absolutely do that. I probably should put a link to the.
Should put a link to your stream in there, actually.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, I should do that. I'll remember to do that. So that's that project, and that's coming on. That's essentially finished. Kieran from the Dublin Microsoft Garage is going to litho print some nice labels. I mean, I've just used paper and Pritt stick to make these, but actually it's come out all right, and they don't look terrible, but they do start to peel eventually. So I think Kieran's making us some nice self-adhesive ones. Dean Ellaby says that he's still got the burn marks on his keyboard. Oh, sorry to hear that. It could have been worse. At least they're on your keyboard and not on you, which is the main thing. So there's that project, and then you mentioned earlier that we ran a workshop for Microsoft with the robot arm, and we've mentioned the robot arm on this show a few times before as well. And in fact, if I just start this, hold on, let's just start this, and then I should be able to.
Dave R4444 in the chat was trying to post a link to the Azure IoT Developer 30-day challenge. I'd like to see that link, but yeah, sadly you can't post it. So if you want to, I don't know, via Twitter or DM or something, then we can stick it in the chat for you. But yeah.
Look it up. This is that robot arm. So I've got an Ocio cam here pointed down. This is a live view of that robot arm. And if I start up the software, if I can find this, there we are. And plug the power in. Dink, across it goes. Right, hold on. A little bit of setup. So you find that link there for a minute, Cliff, and
I'm looking.
Tell you what you can't see is because I'm doing that same thing. Look, so that's the robot arm there again. I'm looking at too many things because I had to share that from a different machine. So log into this.
There we go. Found it. There's the link.
.NET Run. If I go to,
I've been going through this. The changed the format of the page. I was going through this because it was made available to MVPs slightly before it was obviously made generally available. This Cloud Skills Challenge, and I started going through it, but then got caught up in client projects, so I didn't get to finish it. But yeah, it's put together by a team. I remember rightly, put together by a team at Oxford University, and it takes you through all the things you need to be able to put an IoT project together using Azure IoT. It's the bit that I did is quite good, and you do get a discounted exam code at the end of it. Within 3 days completing it, you get an email with a discount code. So it's not 100% free, but you get a discount. They don't say how much of a discount you get though. But yeah, have a look on the link and you'll see it.
Let's put these two side by side. There's a little hint. So on the left-hand side is this robot, and I can control that remotely.
Oh, this is your VR thing.
Yeah, that's right, exactly. So this is a web page here, and I can move this, and other people can do that at the same time. So no doubt, this is what normally happens is I show this demo here, and then people log on and they start playing with it as well, which is absolutely fine. It's designed for exactly that process there. So there we go. It's interesting, the stuff as well. I don't know if anybody saw that when you start typing Oculus into Google, the search suggestions that you get can be a little bit disturbing. So apologies if you saw some search suggestions there that are, you can see what people are searching for when you search for Oculus. Anyway, that's the reach. And it's stuck, it's stuck on there. There we are. It's trying to pull itself down. There we are. So, that's cool all on its own to be able to remote control the robot. And I know we had Shahid controlling that from New Zealand, in fact. But we've also got this Quest 2 VR headset that I bought recently, specifically for that keynote. And I've written a little VR app, in fact, to be able to play with that. So if I get that up and running, I'll show you how that's working. Right. Switch to a stationary boundary. Oh, in fact, let's go switch to I need to change my floor level. I'll do this. That's better. Confirm. Switch to a stationary boundary. There. Confirm. Right. So if I go home, and then I'm going to get my little app running and then start casting, which should appear on there. I don't see the robot moving. I'm quite surprised. People are very reserved. Oh, I'm all the way down there. That's funny. It's because of my Guardian, I guess. Let's just reset my Guardian. It's still all the way down there. All right, I'll start casting anyway, even though it's all the way down there. I'm not quite sure. That should appear then on the right-hand side. It's buffering. I don't know why it's all the way down there, but it is all the way down there. Cliff, do you want to get that web page open? I'll paste the link in the chat. And in the OBS chat, because it's easier. Actually, I won't. I'll paste it in the main chat, and other people can have that then. Yep. There we go. So you can go to that address. Must be an easier way to use a headset. Yeah. Yeah. Dean Ellaby says maybe the personalising. Or... Maybe they are. But they're not. Right, so that if you look, you can see the robot arm moving in my app. So this is all Signal R. So I've got, over the course of the weekend, I managed to get Signal R into a Unity app. And you see it's gone all the way down there now. But I'll need the left-hand controller. So if I get my left-hand controller working, then I can change the rotation in there while you're changing the grab or the reach or whatever. It's going crazy, this is now over here. Oh, it's got itself all hooked up. There we go. Hey, it's a little bit... Cliff's and his son have actually designed a better robot arm than the one that I'm using here, because mine's really rickety. But yeah, this is pretty cool use of Signal R technology to be able to have an in-app robot arm that you can see moving, and it's actually moving along the lines with. Oops, why can't I see? Oh, there we are. So yeah, it's live and it's really responsive. At least from this mode, I don't know how much of that you can actually see, but on the
you can see the robot moving. You get the idea, but yeah, it's you need to move around in space, but yeah, you get the idea. It's kind of cool, kind of use of kind of seeing something done in VR that's affecting the. You can imagine like a doctor or someone, doing something in VR, which is happening on a patient. Live somewhere else in the world. So, all using tech like that. It's kind of clever.
Yeah, it's something that I've always wanted to do, and this gave me a way to do it, because I mean, obviously everything else was actually there already. What wasn't there was the VR side of things, but all I needed to do was get Signal R in there. It was quite complicated. You could download the Signal R NuGet package if you like, but it needs all of the other bits to go with it. So you've got to get the NuGet exe and then put that in a directory, the assets directory for the app, and then you can use that NuGet command then to download it, and it will also download all of the other DLLs that it needs, that it relies upon, but it downloads them all into folders, and then there's all the different versions of that library as well. And we need specifically the .NET Standard 2 libraries or the DLLs for that. So then you've got to go through each of those directories and copy them out of the directories and into that main directory. And then there's a bit of XML that you need as well to get that to work. So yeah, if only it had straps on your head, Dean says. Yeah, it's because I've got these headphones on and I can't put it on over the headphones. I take the headphones off, and yeah, complicated. So it was really cool once I got all that working. That robot I managed to find in a GitHub repo, which I will try and find somewhere. But Unity has recently added something called articulated joints. So there's all sorts of joints, fixed and hinge joints and that sort of stuff. And I know Davide's in the chat there, and he'll be well used to a lot of those. But they've recently added this articulated joint where you can have like a main level, and then you can have joints that go models that go underneath that, assets that go underneath that. prefabs and stuff like that, and then you can link them together. There's some code that you need as well that luckily was in the GitHub repo for me, and I just needed to modify that so that I could get SignalR in there as well. So I've got a SignalR script that I've put onto the robot itself, and then the controllers. I think where did I put the? I think I put them on the controllers or something like that, where I've got then some level of it's on the sliders. So the sliders themselves will send a SignalR command out when you move it. That message goes out, and then it's ignored by the robot in the app, but the rest of the connected devices will then move. And in fact, during the workshop for Microsoft, we had 4 or 5 robots all connected together at the same time and all accepting the same lots of movement at exactly the same time, including a robotic cliff at the end of that, which is quite funny.
Yeah, so, I didn't have my robot plugged in, so I was just getting the command sent direct to me. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, it's good. I enjoyed that. So yeah, that was I was quite happy with that, and in fact, I noticed that David Fowler retweeted my tweet, and if you don't know, David Fowler's one of the people that created SignalR. So David,
I spotted that. I thought it was kind of cool to see the creator of a bit of software getting retweeting something where his software's been used. I think in a kind of cool way. Very cool way of showing off the tech stack.
Yeah, definitely. I quite like that. So, I mean, I need to write a blog post when I get some time about taking that all the way through, because there's quite a lot of stuff that you need to get right to get to that point. So I think there's a couple of blog posts that need writing there. I was speaking to Davide, actually. What I wanted, really, you saw on the left-hand side of the screen back there when I was showing it, was the live view of the robot arm, which is still live at the moment, funnily enough. I wanted to bring that actually into the app, but sadly there's no free 3D modeled web browser. Essentially, you can make HTTP calls, but showing HTML5 video is just not something that's very easy to do. There's one control we found, and it's $200 or something for the control. So if it was $40-50, something like that, maybe I probably would have just forked out for it. But just for a demo, I didn't really think that $200 was something I should be spending my money on. It's a bit of a shame. So,
hey, what are you trying to do in Unity? Just have a web page view?
Yeah, but within an app. So obviously there's a web browser built into to the Oculus, but you can't bring a web browser into your app, which is really sad. There must be some security reasons for it, but
yeah.
So
okay.
What was it? I forget what it was called now. 3D web view. Was it that? I think it might have been this. Yeah, this was the one. This is what.
You're not showing that. Is this because you're scared of showing off your search results now, Pete?
Yeah, no, not so much. Yeah, that's not my search results, I promise. There we go. So, this is what
you're not going to get away with that now, don't you?
No, probably not.
That by everybody.
Yeah, probably. Well, everybody that was watching anyway, which there's only 74. No, not really.
It's only the
internet. It looked dead good actually. This, but yeah, it was just too expensive. The Android VR one, which is the one you need to buy. Where is it?
Do you need the web page though, or are you just looking to recast the video? Because you can use the what's it called? What's the video player called that has got the little traffic cone? VLC. I've used VLC onto a pane in Unity for projects as a proof of concept for a client, and that was it was actually fairly simple to do. I can't remember how I did it, but I remember at the time I was like, "Oh, this is easy." And we were just broadcasting a video feed from a design engine that was being used to design stuff the client was using, and it's being broadcast into Unity onto a flat pane with VLC. And then we took it one further, and we just to prove the fact that it could be put onto a 3D object. We wrapped that plane around a ball, so it had the VLC video content playing on a ball that was bouncing around the screen.
How did you use something like this, or is it?
VLC. It was a free download that I got. Yeah, VLC for Unity. Yeah, and I pulled in libVLC. I remember I had to build the binaries to get it to work because I was doing it. As a project to get it all working for them. But I had to then build the binaries. But they said that it's this will be released shortly. But yeah, that's what we did, and it worked really, really well. The only downside was that there was a delay between what was happening on the 3D engine that the designer was using and what was being seen on the on the Oculus headsets, and it was too much of a delay for what the client had in mind. So sadly, the project died. So yeah, but it was I didn't pay for it. I can see it's like 90 euro there. It was all. Yeah, there was a VLC player that was free, and you just pulled it in, and it worked. As I say, you just had to build the. I'll see if I can dig out because I keep project notes for all my projects. I'll see if I can dig it out and I'll ping it across to you, Pete.
Yeah, because it's literally just the video that I wanted of the arm in the real world moving in there, so that you could see that. That's essentially all I wanted, because the controls are the only other thing on that page, and they're already in the app. So
yeah. Because then all you need is the camera just to push it out we did as a UDP stream, and UDP RT, what is it called, the video stream?
Oh yeah, RTMP or something like that, isn't it?
Something like that. Yeah, we did it as that. I didn't get involved in that bit. Someone else I was working with on the project did all that side, pushing the video stream up. I was just displaying it on Oculus and within the Xamarin app as well. But it's just the delay was just too much for what they had in mind. So it just didn't work for them. Cool project. I mean, the latency delay was, less than a second, but you could see it, and that's what they didn't like. But they were looking like on in the headset and at the screen that the person was editing the content on, and I was like, that's too much of a delay. It needs to be like now. And it's like, well, there's latency and everything, So yeah, but hey ho. Dave's got a drop. Thanks for visiting, Dave.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for coming.
Thanks for the links as well. And we'll see you again soon.
Yeah, by the way, we've got Olivier on Knots IoT next Thursday, the 18th, from 6:30 GMT. So if you want a bit more Olivier, then do join us for that. Assuming that he's not misconstrued what tonight was about. But no, I'm pretty sure he's in with that.
What's he going to be talking about?
I still don't know. I was hoping to ask him actually, but we got carried away talking about other stuff. So
probably an idea to find out so you can actually promote it a bit better.
I have asked him, but it's a busy guy. It was Embedded World and Ignite last week, so but just the fact that Olivier's coming on, if we just have a chat, it'll be good enough for me. So
very cool.
Oh, and Davide's off as well, so thanks, Davide. In fact, we're probably all off. It's 10:45, so I think we've probably done enough dodgy search results and tinkering for the evening anyway. So it was really good. So thanks everyone for joining us. We'll be back on Thursday at 2 p.m. GMT to carry on with Benjamin Carbe and our LoRaWAN, digital twins, Blender, Azure stuff that we've been working on. So I've got a bit of work to do before that goes live on Thursday. I've got a motion sensor that I need to model for the digital twins and get that set up in there. So see if I can remember how to do it. So there's that, and then we'll be back next Tuesday night, same time at 9 p.m. GMT, and then a double dose of IoT then the following Thursday, as I've said, with at 2 p.m. again. It's a chance it might be still with Benjamin, but there's a good chance we could also be doing something else, or we could have a week off. Just depends. But Paul DiCarlo is up next with the NVIDIA Jetson, so that'd be a cool thing to do. Yeah, exactly. So there's all that. So thanks very much, everyone, and we will catch you all again soon. Cheers.
Good night.